థర్డ్ చాప్టర్ డిస్కస్ చేయబోతున్నాం. అసలు ఫస్ట్ కోఆపరేషన్ అంటే కొంచెం రెండు నిమిషాలు మాట్లాడాలనుకుంటున్నా. కోఆపరేషన్ అంటే ఫస్ట్ మనకి మనం కోఆపరేటివ్గా ఉండడం. అసలు మనలో మనం కోఆపరేటివ్గా ఉండడం వల్ల ఏమవుతుందంటే హెల్త్ పెరుగుతుంది, హ్యాపీనెస్ వస్తుంది, ప్రాస్పెరిటీ వస్తుంది. సో మనతోని మనం కోఆపరేటివ్ ఉండడం తర్వాత మన ఇంట్లో హోమ్లో కోఆపరేషన్, తర్వాత ఆఫీస్లో, తర్వాత జాతీయ స్థాయిలో నేషనల్ వైడ్గా, ఇంటర్నేషనల్గా. సో ఇప్పుడు ఎప్పుడైతే మనం కోఆపరేట్ ఉండడం వల్ల అది ఇన్నర్ రిఫ్లెక్షన్ బయట కనబడుతుంది. అప్పుడు మన ఇంట్లో అందరం పరస్పరంగా సహకరించుకుంటాం. ఆ తర్వాత ఆఫీస్లో అందరికీ సహకారంగా ఉంటాం. తర్వాత జాతీయ స్థాయిలో, అంతర్జాతీయ స్థాయిలో కూడా ఇట్లా ఈ సహకారం అనేది పెంపొందిస్తాం. సో ఇందులో సైకాలజీ ఆఫ్ కోఆపరేషన్ అండ్ గ్రూప్ కాన్సెప్ట్స్ లో థర్డ్ చాప్టర్ ద గ్రూప్ అండ్ ద కామన్ గోల్. ఈరోజు మనం దీని మీద డిస్కస్ చేయబోతున్నాం. నేను జస్ట్ అవుతా, మీరు వినండి. మెంబర్ ఆఫ్ ఎనీ గ్రూప్ మస్ట్ హ్యావ్ ఏ కామన్ గోల్. 5 ఫ్యాక్టర్స్ ఆర్ ఇన్వాల్వ్డ్ ఇన్ దిస్. అంటే ఒక గ్రూప్ గా మనం మెలగాలంటే ఒక 5 ఫ్యాక్టర్స్ మెయిన్ గా ఇన్ఫ్లుయెన్స్ చేస్తాయి. అవి ఏంటి ఒక్కొక్కటి. దే నో దెమ్సెల్ఫ్, దే నో ఈచ్ అదర్, దే నో వాట్ ద కామన్ గోల్ ఈస్, దే నో హౌ టు రీచ్ దట్ గోల్. 5th one, the support, they support, encourage, enthuse each other to reach that goal. ఈ మెయిన్ గా ఈ 5 గోల్స్ అనేది గ్రూప్ కాన్షియస్నెస్ లో మనకు ఉపయోగపడతాయి. There is no group if these 5 factors are not in operation. 5 ఫ్యాక్టర్స్ చుట్టే ఈ గ్రూప్ కాన్షియస్నెస్ తిరుగుతుంటాయి. గ్రూప్ దట్ is to say, if they know themselves better, they have more group consciousness. If they know each other better, their group consciousness improve. If they know their goal better, group consciousness develops. If they know how to reach their goal better, group consciousness unfold and they support, encourage and enthuse each other. Their group consciousness expand further and flourishes. If the members of a group want to change the dimension or plane of their group consciousness, they must raise the group goals. For example, a goal that is physical in nature must be raised to an emotional goal, then mental, then intuitional and atmic goals, or national, global and solar goals, and so on. As a group rises the level of its goal, the member of the group must have more information and deeper understanding regarding the plane on which they are operating. If they operate on the physical plane, they must know themselves as they are on the physical plane. When they operate on the emotional and mental or intuitional planes, they must know exactly what they are on those planes. The same applies to the other factors related to having a goal. Members must know each other and their plane in which they work. They must know what their goals is on that plane. They must know how to reach the goal on that plane. And they must support, encourage and enthuse each other to reach the goal on that plane. As they penetrate into one plane after another, or from one field to a greater field, they face a dual challenges. First one, to know more, to be more, to work more. Malaksa chadutuna. To know more, to be more, to work more. To expand their consciousness more in order to keep peace with each one another. A second phase of expansion begins when one group merges with another group in integration and cooperation based upon the 5 factors given the above. There is yet another step forward in the development of group consciousness. Here, a group aligns itself with another group which has the same goal and is working in the astral and mental, intuitional higher planes. In order to actualize the goal on all planes simultaneously. This is a great achievement. At this stage, the group has become a living entity. We see that the consciousness of all individual and a group slowly expand as that person or group function on higher and higher planes, exercising greater creativity, discipline, sensitivity, and punctuality on these successively higher planes. As a group grows and becomes stronger, it attracts greater opposition from the force of chaos. These forces, through their agents, will want to destroy the group by making it selfish, self-interest. అంటే గ్రూప్ గా ఏర్పడిన తర్వాత ఏవేవి ఆ గ్రూప్ ను డిస్ట్రాక్ట్ చేయడానికి వచ్చే అంశాలు ఏంటి అని చెప్తుండో సెల్ఫ్ ఇంట్రెస్ట్ అండ్ సెపరేటివ్. బట్ సచ్ అపోజిషన్ ఆపరేట్స్ అండర్ ఏ లా, ద లా ఆఫ్ కర్మ. Opposition first tests the group of integrity and makes it stronger. Second, it draws unrefined materials and persons to the group which are then assimilated into the group entity. Thus, opposition helps the group to grow, to render greater service, and to become more vigilant and alert in all its facets and in all its activities. We must remember that a group will encounter greater and greater opposition as it goes to higher and higher levels, and that it is such an opposition that will draw out of the core of the group deeper creative energies. The purpose of evaluation is to develop groups with an ever greater consciousness. One may ask what the differences are between groups that are destructive and the ones that are constructive and creative. Basically, there are only two differences: their goals and their ability to link with higher groups and higher planes. Destructive groups cannot elevate themselves any higher than the lower mental planes, whereas constructive groups can eternally proceed ahead, plane after plane, while destructive groups use each other as source of nourishment and encouragement in order to increase darkness, crime and cleavages. Creative groups nourishes themselves from higher visions and higher source of energies. The goals of destructive groups are based upon self-interest. The goals of constructive groups are based upon the interest, group welfare, and group achievements. Destructive groups operate using pain, suffering, murder, separatism, vanity, and ego, ignorant of the ultimate divinity existing within everyone. Constructive groups operate with the joy, devotion, love, freedom, unity, and enlightenment, aware of the common divinity of the oneself existing within all. Real groups, constructive groups, are more difficult to form than destructive ones. In the formation of a real group, Each individual must have soul awareness. A real group is like a ring having many diamonds. Each diamond must be cut and polished to the highest degree possible to fit next to the other. The member of the real group must be highly developed to be able to be part of that group. The development of a group consciousness is a scientific process. A special science will be developed in the future to guide and educate people in it. Some people think that to advance in group consciousness means to lose their individuality. This is a great illusion. True individuality is born only when a person resigns from his pseudo selves. His mask and artificial, cosmetic images. Progress toward group consciousness is a process in which you free yourself from mechanical action and instead become a more conscious person. A person control his own life. అంటే మెకానికల్ కాకుండా తనను తను ఫస్ట్ కంట్రోల్గా చేసుకోవాలి, గ్రూప్లో ఎంటర్ కావాలంటే. As one find his individuality, he realized that the core of all individual in essence is one, the one self. It is this awareness that inspires striving toward group consciousness. It is only in group consciousness that an individual finds his true self. As the field of consciousness expands, it covers greater areas of consciousness. As a person's field of consciousness expands, it includes in his consciousness many individual fields of consciousness. కాన్షియస్నెస్ ఎన్ని టైప్స్, 9 టైప్స్ మీకు ఈ బుక్ లో పేజ్ నెంబర్ 28 పేజ్ నెంబర్ లో ఉంటుంది. ఫస్ట్ వచ్చేసి ఆత్మిక్ కాన్షియస్నెస్, సెకండ్ వచ్చేసి వెజిటేబుల్ కాన్షియస్నెస్, థర్డ్ వచ్చేసి యానిమల్ కాన్షియస్నెస్, ఫోర్త్ ఇండివిజువల్ కాన్షియస్నెస్, ఫిఫ్త్ గ్రూప్ కాన్షియస్నెస్, సిక్స్త్ హైరార్కికల్ గ్రూప్ కాన్షియస్నెస్, సెవెంత్ ప్లానెటరీ గ్రూప్ కాన్షియస్నెస్, ఎయిత్ వన్ వచ్చేసి సోలార్ గ్రూప్ కాన్షియస్నెస్, నైన్త్ గెలాక్టిక్ అండ్ గ్రూప్ కాన్షియస్నెస్. An important quality in group consciousness is element of sacrifice and resignation. Group consciousness develops step by step. To take a step, a person must draw one foot from the place where it was attached and move it forward to a new place, a new integration. For example, in the first step, you work on yourself and make yourself into a sacred stone to be used in the future temple. In the second step, you resign from a self-interested, self-focused life and begin to integrate your interacts with those of the groups. In the third step, you resign from the group interest and unit with the interest of larger groups. In the fourth step, you resign from the larger group interest and begin to integrate with the national interest. In the fifth step, you resign from separative national interest and integrate with the global interest. At each step, you resign because you see that your real interest can only be protected and developed in uniting yourself with greater group interest. Greater inspiration is given to those who have integrated with large groups. Once having lofty goals to achieve. Compare, for example, the corn with a huge oak tree. The acorn is an accumulation of millions of co-workers, atoms, chemicals, and elements from earth and air, which will become an oak tree with thousands of branches and leaves. And acorns, one acorn strive to be an oak tree to multiply itself. If it remained an individual acorn and did not associate and develop greater unity, greater group consciousness, it would stay just as it is. However, because of its striving toward its own particular group consciousness, it does not multiply and become able to produce individual acorns and seeds for great groups in the future. Further step to develop group consciousness. We can build group conscious through talking the following steps. Try to make others happy without allowing them to take advantage of you. Further steps. Work for the upliftment, health, prosperity, and happiness of your family members using devotion and sacrifice. Third one, increase your love for group members. Do not gossip about them or slander them. Speak highly and respectful of them. Do everything possible to make them happy, healthy, prosperous, and enlightened. అంటే ఇవన్నీ మనం చేస్తూ ఉండాలి గ్రూప్ కోసం. Do not commit treachery against any members. Put your time, money, and efforts into making the group capable of rendering better service. Develop an interest in the affairs of your nation, learn about its problem, and see how you can be involved constructively. Develop an interest in the affairs of all nations and see how you can promote peace in the world, cooperation between nations, and right human relations among all the people in the world. Try to contact your soul through meditation because your soul is a group consciousness. మళ్ళొకసారి చదువుతాను ఈ పాయింట్. Try to contact your soul through meditation because your soul is a group consciousness. Daily think about oneself, from whom all things proceed and to whom all things return. Cultivate readiness to meet the group need. Readiness is a state of being in which you have the needed knowledge, skills, energy, and virtues to meet the group need. Intelligent people are not lazy. Lazy people merely wait for an opportunity to come along. Intelligent people make themselves ready and create opportunities for service. Each person must strive to develop greater efficiency to meet the ever greater and ever increasing needs of progressing group. Anything which stands still enters a process of decomposition and stagnation. In the future, the greatness of individuals, groups, and nations will be measured by their efforts toward greater unity and synthesis through group consciousness. The greatest heroes will be those who bring unity and synthesis and thereby annihilate the nightmare of blood, warfare, and suffering of humanity. which has continued age after age on this planet. When a person's consciousness expands, he experiences greater health, greater happiness, greater prosperity, greater understanding, more strength and power, a longer lifespan. Group consciousness enables a person to bloom and contribute to the needs of humanity. In group consciousness, there is a group soul which synchronizes the action of all individuals and directs them toward a group purpose. As you consider the qualities of group consciousness, give serious thoughts to the following. First one, as a cell become part of various organs of the body and then the body. Similarly, a person becomes a member of a group, developing group consciousness, and then becomes the group. A group member must develop group consciousness to such a degree that he feels the pains, sorrows, failures, joy, and success of others as if they were his own. Diplomas, social position, influence, and wealth have value only if a person can be a conscious part of a group, having developed group consciousness. Various species, races, and tribes have vanished from the earth because somewhere, somehow, they disobeyed the law of group consciousness. Nature recycles, eliminating all those forms which inadequately progress toward group consciousness. A group is created for a great reason, to build unity and synthesis through assimilating new elements and causing them to release their innate possibilities. Individuals must form groups and groups must form greater groups and greater groups until all groups become one humanity, having developed global consciousness. This is how future pain, suffering, and destruction can be eliminated from our planet. All resources of the globe could then be used to lead humanity to still higher states of consciousness. Second point, individual growth and efficiency are impossible without developing group consciousness and acting as a part of group consciousness, as if becoming a branch of a living tree. The second point, Malaksadavata. Individual growth and efficiency are impossible without developing group consciousness and acting as a part of group consciousness, as if becoming a branch and a living tree. If the cell in the body remained a separate cell, it would not share in the emotions, thoughts, visions, revelations, joys, and ecstasies of the commander. Similarly, if a person remains a separate person, if he tries to stand aloof, he will not share in the joy, enthusiasm, labor, striving, beauty, emotions, thoughts, and visions of the group or nation. Remaining alone, the cell or person will be deprived of greater labor and will lose the chance to develop group consciousness, which it is his destiny to develop. As a cell, share in the activities and emotions, thoughts and visions of a greater whole. It unfolds progress and enter the path of perfection. But if it remains isolated, it degenerates and vanishes. The same is true for an individual person. One may wonder why there is a such tendency in nature to produce groups and group consciousness. This is because the oneself is trying to manifest through all parts of creation, synthesizing and unifying the parts within his sphere of the purpose. The oneself gradually reveals himself in all manifestation as one entity. Just as a man's spirit tries to collect cells and atoms to build the various bodies through which it reveals its glory, Christ referred to the ideas of revelation and unity when he said, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. He removes every one of my branches that does not bear fruit, and he cleans every bearing branches, so that it may bear even more abundant and better fruit. And such withered branches are gathered and thrown into the fire, where they are burned. A branch does not bear fruit when, in unfortunate moment, it decides to not be part of living tree anymore. After a branches separate from the tree, Satan takes over and makes the branches as dry as possible to be used in the fire. Third one, increasing and progressive group relationships develop various part of a person's being, helping him become more efficient. Group membership, fourth one, group membership places upon a person varying degree of responsibility. It is only in committing himself to responsibility that a person helps his soul achieve perfection. Group consciousness will work on a national level when various sections or parties of the nation are decided to the highest good of the nation. Group consciousness will work in humanity when all nations hold the interest of humanity higher than a national interest. Later, such consciousness of a unified humanity will fuse with the consciousness of the hierarchy and Shambhala, then turn into global, and then turn into solar and galactic consciousness. Just as a small business becomes a huge global corporation. We will eventually understand that it is more advantageous to be identified as a member of a group, of a family, than as a single person, as a part of a group. Then simply as a family, as a nation, then as a mere group, as a humanity rather than a nation. భరద్వాజ్, హలో. చాప్టర్ అయిపోయింది, కంటిన్యూ చేయమంటావా ఆపేయమంటావా? చెప్పు, ఎన్ని నిమిషాలు అని నువ్వు చెప్తే నేను ఫాలో అవుతా. హాఫ్ అన్ అవర్ అయిందా? కోఆపరేషన్ సమ్ సజెషన్స్ నావి ఒకటి చదివి క్లోజ్ చేయాలా? ఓకే. The law of cooperation. Cooperation is a cosmic law operating in the universe to carry out the construction of all life forms and to lead them to their ultimate purpose. It is the law of creativity, evaluation, and achievement. We are told that this law operates on each plane for each life form, individually and for all planes collectively, relating each life form to the other and to their collective and higher counterparts. This law operates as the survival instinct, as affinity and relationship, and gradually as a process of consciousness cooperation. The law of cooperation kindles the fire in each atom, cell, form in each human being, group and nation, and each star. It enables each form to proceed toward establishing cooperation in expanding fields of existence. To secure the individual and group survival of each entity, and to release the potential inherent in each. The law of cooperation is the law of existence, health, happiness, prosperity, and enlightenment, and security. Any form of destruction or disintegration is caused by the withdrawal of law of cooperation. Hatred, animosity, separatism, self-interest, and greed are sign of degeneration and absence of law of cooperation. The law of cooperation can be activated or refused. Refusal of the cooperation of results in suffering, pain, and death. For individuals, groups, and nations, the study and application of this law is vital. History must be examined from the viewpoint of the existence and operation, or the absence of law of cooperation. All breakthroughs are made, all great cultures and civilization are born through response to the law of cooperation. Conversely, misery, pain, suffering, bloodshed, destruction, and death come to us as a result of the absence of cooperation. Learning about the law of cooperation and applying it in our individual life, at home, in our family, office, group, and in our national and international life will bring prosperity, health, happiness, and expansion of consciousness to each of us individually, as well as to all of those related to us. Studying the life history of individuals, groups, and nations clearly show how the advancement of these units has been the result of cooperation. What specifically should we cooperate with? Here are some suggestions. Cooperation with the law itself, cooperation with forces and energies of the universe, cooperation with nature and its laws, cooperation with subhuman or superhuman kingdoms, cooperation with the world of ideas, visions, and revelation, cooperation with individuals, groups, and nations, cooperation with one's own inner guide and teacher, cooperation with wisdom of the ages, Cooperation with beauty, goodness, righteousness, joy, and freedom. Cooperation with group vision. Cooperation with all life forms and with the current of light that make them creative. Cooperation with national and international laws and customs. The law of cooperation must not be exercised to secure one's own survival, happiness, prosperity, and success at the expenses of all forms of life. But it should be exercised with a holistic view to secure the well-being, health, happiness, success, and prosperity of all those units who are engaged in the cooperative labor. The more a person cooperates, the more he reads his nature of all those elements which cause him unhappiness, pain, and suffering, and the more he can fuse with group interest, joyful experiencing the loss of his personal interest. Any cooperation that is developed for self-interest only is a technique of exploitation which will draw a person into conflict with the law of cooperation. Conflict with this law will result in failure, pain, and suffering. All visions suggest that there is a link between life and the physical plane and the beyond. Cooperation is a matter of having a vision and dedicating oneself to that vision along with all those who have the same or similar vision. Leaders play a very important role in promoting cooperation and group consciousness. Leaders must offer a vision to the public and educate them regarding the benefit of cooperating with those who have similar vision. If people understanding what a great blessing cooperation can bring, they will gradually want to cooperate. It must become clear in minds of all that cooperation is the royal road, happiness, health, prosperity, and enlightenment. A science of cooperation must be taught to people from childhood and carried into adulthood. It must be clear to all that cooperation is a science which can replace the psychology of disputes, antagonism, fightings, war, and bloodshed. We can being this process by writing and speaking about this science, and then by demonstrating its practical value through movies, plays, discussions, and various publications. Life will change dramatically when people learn how to cooperate. People think that leaders cannot endure if they do not force their will. History shows that opposite to be true. All leaders who tried to impose their will on others disappeared under painful conditions. Real leadership involves the technique of challenging, inspiring, educating, enlightening, encouraging. Real leadership does not use fear to control others because it knows that control, suppressed, and forced people develop serious health problems. They lose their creativity, efficiency, joy, and their source of inspiration. When leadership makes people fearful, unhealthy, unhappy, insane, and depressed, it cannot expect any long-term success. The healthier people are, the harder they work. Joyful people engage in labor with a spirit of hope for the future. Hope for the future. The more they work and cooperate, the more efficient they become. Co-workers must work in freedom without pressures. Freedom makes us more creative. The leadership which want to be successful will never exercise force on people or make them act under fear. An insurance company sold millions of dollars worth of insurance to people by using techniques that were extremely charged with fear. 5 years later, the company filed for bankruptcy since most of its clients developed serious illness for which it had to pay. In the Middle East, such a technique is called sitting on a branch while sawing from the trunk. There are two kinds of cooperation. The first kind is cooperation for self-interest. The second is cooperation for the interest of all. Cooperation for self-interest ends in failure. Cooperation for the interest of all parties involved bring health, happiness, prosperity, and wisdom to all. When we speak about cooperation, we refer to the second definition. Cooperation is ever progressive inclusiveness in the interest of all parties involved. Every time we fail to establish cooperation, we prove our own intellectual, spiritual, and moral failures. A wise leader or a wise leadership must try to find a way to cooperate rather than to fight. Efforts and expenditure needed to create cooperation are far less costly than those needed to start and continue fights. By taking a particular war and analyzing it in an impartial manner, finding out where and how leaders failed to cooperate and how much was spent in terms of money, lives building, and so on, we would discover how much could be saved if the waves of means were found for cooperation instead. Many critics have been written on the causes of conducting of wars. However, there may be none that analyze a given incident and show how much better it would have been if the warning parties had come to an agreement through cooperation prior to the outbreak of hostilities. A married couple spent $50,000 on a divorce. 5 years later, the parties remarried each other. It then occurred to them to find out how much they could have saved if they had taken steps to create cooperation with each other. The total cost incurred was $85,000, not taking into consideration the increased irritation, anxiety, and sleepless nights. Similarly, every failure in cooperation is proof of the absence of wisdom. What a beautiful proof that people do not do enough research to find alternatives to misunderstandings, war, and bloodshed. Cooperation is not possible when people think only of their own self-interest or act in fear that other parties will exploit them. One of the foundation of cooperation is mutual trust. People must work hard to create mutual trust. When mutual trust is established, cooperation become a natural way to act. ఆటోమేటిక్గా కోఆపరేషన్ అనేది జరిగిపోతుంది. Establishing trust takes effort and sacrifice. Because of this, people sometimes think that to create trust, they must spend more money and time than if they fight and try to solve their differences by violence or war. Universities and special interest groups must develop research projects to see if the effort to create trust is more costly than the effort to solve the problem with fighting. Of course, in some cases, trust may seem to be more costly than fighting and war, but at least one does not lose his life or the lives of beloved one in trying to create trust. What can one enjoy if a war is won but he is dead? Cooperation must be carried out for the happiness of all, for the health of all, for the prosperity of all, and for the enlightenment of all. Cooperation cannot proceed through imposition, force, or totalitarian techniques. People must have a vision, understand the vision, and look for the ways and means to actualize that vision. Anytime people force others to cooperate, they create cleavages in the nature of those who are forced to cooperate. People with cleavages in their nature sooner or later destroy the work in which they were forced to cooperate.